Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. 60 minutes of football fun and banter with Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV. Are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble.
Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow and join in now.
This is your host, Chris.
No! God, please, no! No!
I know, I'm sorry, but he's cheap and available.
How rude.
Right, Chris. All right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day, depending what part of the world you are in. Welcome along to Leicester Till I Die TV. You can find us under that name at all those socials along there. Just search Leicester Till I Die TV on any of those and we should come up. It's a new special program. Well, not special, but it's a different program. Episode number 1. Memory Lane. We're going to be probably twice a month on a Wednesday evening at 9, going back into the vaults, back into the dark recesses of those corners of Leicester City that you thought you'd forgotten, and bringing back some memories, some good, maybe some not so good, and I think we're probably going to have a few, I know we're going to have a few not so good memories. I shouldn't really. I mean, it's a bit bad timing bringing this guy in just after I've said bad memories, but it's not. But I'm going to welcome my co-host for these shows and say good evening, Dave. How the devil are you, sir?
All right, Chris. I love that bit.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Mate. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yes, not so bad. Getting a little bit excited because we're on the verge of possibly signing somebody, but trying to allegedly. Who knows? Yeah, trying not to celebrate too soon.
I saw on Sky tonight that the boys, the transfer boys, they love it, don't they? So we're in millimeters of signing him.
Yes.
I know you want a fullback. Why the hell do we need a fullback when we can't score goals? I know, but I don't get it.
No. I mean, I'm agreeing with you that although it's left back, centre back, right wing, which everybody is saying we need, and Rodgers is saying that's what we need to target. But for me, we need a striker as well. I'm in total agreement with you. And again, every day I do it. I log on to the Sky transfer page and sit there and stare at absolutely nothing. But we'll see. Who knows? It's
Who knows?
We're Leicester. We're born to be disappointed.
We'll leave it till January the 31st.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if we believe it, what we read every single window, we end up with a 5-a-side team anyway, because everybody's sort of being bought.
Yeah,
but anyway, welcome along, sir. A new show, like I say, Memory Lane.
Yeah.
Sit here and chew the cud, and I've got to say, I've just sort of got the publicity photos back for the show, and of course, you didn't know that you posed for this, but you had. These will be going out very soon, promoting it. There we go.
I thought it was a football show.
You know who they are. You know who they are. It could have been worse. I could have put Kermit and Miss Piggy up there.
Good point. Good point.
I'm not saying who was which.
No, certainly not.
That's a separate vote on the chat. If you're in the chat, by the way, and thank you very much. Please do subscribe if you are new, and smash that like button whether you are or whether you're not. But we do want to know who your worst manager is, and just put WM, then gap, and then the name, and we will add it up at the end. I couldn't put it as an actual vote because we're going to talk about 10 managers who, some of them are really, really awful. Some of them I've just put in there for devilment and for the fact that I didn't like them personally. But never hold a grudge. Never hold a grudge. We got mixed up. I mean, some of them, they go back further than I care to remember, don't they, Dave?
Well, I remember, the first one I remember is Matt Gillis. And that was the team of the 60s that should have won the Division 1. Probably should have won the cup. Had some of the best footballers in the country in the side, including Gordon Banks, people like Derek Dugan, who most of the guys listen to this probably don't remember, but that was an era where we were one of the best sides in the country.
Yes,
still won sod all.
Yeah. Things don't change. Things don't change.
To be fair, I think we won the League Cup when it was a two-legged thing. Beat Stoke.
Or two heads, whichever way you want to look at it. But I mean, my first one that I remember that I really got into it was Jimmy Bloomfield. I must be honest with you, but I do remember watching the '69 FA Cup final. That was the first football match I remember seeing. And
it was horrible.
Terry's agreeing with you here, and he's already gone best manager, Matt Gillis. I just sort of, when you look back at that time, you mentioned there, Derek Dugan, Frank McClintock, who will maybe get another mention in this show, Alan Clark, players that went on. And people say, "Oh yeah, I remember Derek Dugan. He was a big Wolves player, wasn't he?" Or I remember Alan Clark. He was massive for Leeds. And you think Don Revie played at Leicester.
For youngsters, if you could think of selling Jamie Vardy 4 years ago, maybe that was how it was seen when Dugan was sold to Wolves. Derek Dugan was a legend at Leicester. He weren't there very long. I was surprised. I think when I was reading my Fossils book, I was surprised the shortest time he was there. But he seemed to make a massive impact, and he's such a footballer.
Do you go back as far as Andy Lockhead? Yeah,
definitely. I think I started taking it seriously in '65 or something like that. Maybe just after the Man United Cup final, Leicester. 63 that was, wasn't it? And unfortunately, I probably told you, a mate of mine's dad used to take me to Coventry every week when Jimmy Hill was in charge, and that was the only way I could get to see a football match in those days. So I used to go. Fair enough. But my mother was from Leicester, so that's how I started going to Leicester. And I actually remember Shilton's debut. He had a nightmare, if I remember rightly. I think we played it, might have been Everton at home. I don't know. Memory goes after a while. But we did wonder about whether we could take crosses or not. Talking about Schmeichel, but Shilton was in that category as well.
Whatever happened to him? I know. I remember Andy Lockhead. I mean, I don't remember him playing, but I sort of, when I was 25-ish, I guess, I moved to Burnley as part of the job. I was moving down the country. And 4 doors up from our third house in Burnley, there was our girls got on well with their girls, and so we got talking, and the mother of the girls went, "Oh, so you're a Leicester fan then?" I went, "Yeah, I always have been," sort of thing. She said, "Oh, have you heard of Andy Lockhead?" And I went, Yeah, of course I have. I never saw him, but I knew of him from reading about him. He was in the cup final, wasn't he? In 69?
He should have scored. Scored.
And I went, yeah, I remember him. He goes, oh, that's my dad. And I went, no, it's not. He went,
Wow.
yeah, it is. I went, no, I had one of those sort of 10-minute, yes, he is, oh, no, he's not, oh, yes, he is sort of moments. Because, of course, he played for Burnley for a good part of his career.
That was a big one. But I remember he scored the winner at Liverpool, I think, in the quarter-final, a header. I'm not sure if it was a replay or was it the quarter-final? I think so. I'm sure he scored at Anfield. And we won 1-0. That rings a bell for some reason, but if you've got stats there, you might be able to find out.
Yeah.
But he was a legend as well. I mean, we've always had great centre forwards.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I mean, he came round and said, oh, yeah, pop round for an hour. He's getting on a bit, don't keep him too long. A bit like us two. And I think...
getting on, yeah.
Yeah. I think about 4 hours later, they actually had to come and get him because we were just literally... You know what it's like? Well, we are when we get talking football. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to know. And one of my happiest memories. Terry also says, do you remember Howard Riley and that team?
A bit before my time, that was. Just before my time, I think. I was going when Jimmy Goodfellow was on the right and Stringfellow on the left, or the other way round. Davy Gibson, Derek Dugan, of course, Schoberg and Cross, who went into the 70s almost. And Banks and goals. Norman, fullback. Yeah, those sort of players. So Howard Riley was just a bit before.
Yeah. Scott, no, we are going to be talking about managers. We just this is the warm up. If you,
this is when two old men start rambling on, Scott.
This is it. I mean, you didn't see this, did you, Scott? Don't think you're in, but that's us two. That'll be us two by the end of the show. All we need is a fence between us so we can lean on it and go, hey. When I was a lad, I used to live in a cardboard box in the street. Look, let us get on to managers because we've got 10 to talk about. And like I say, obviously it's everybody's got their own, that he wasn't a bad manager or you've not included him. These are just 10 I've picked that are amongst the worst, shall I say, the ones that I feel are the worst. And do get your votes in, like I say, in the chat. We've got one vote so far. And that is actually for the gentleman that we're going to start with. So, and that was Terry's. I mean, he did say best manager Matt Gillis, but before we do that, let's just have a look because these are all our managers since Franco Farrell's as far back as I dared go before my memories sort of says who. But there's been quite a few. That's only permanent managers as well. So there's been quite a few there that that aren't permanent managers. I've not included, obviously. There's some big names. I mean, Sven-Goran Eriksson. I still can't believe that we had him.
He'd have sacked himself, apparently. I heard him say once he had such a bad time, but I don't think he was that bad on the win ratios.
He wasn't. I think we just expected to come in and that he would be, because it was the ex-England manager, the net. The thing thing was he bought some players to the club that were probably past the sell-by date, but big names.
Sol Campbell in.
Yeah.
Sol Campbell.
Not Sol Campbell. Sol Bamba, who was on Sky earlier today, funnily enough.
And he made that.
He had that debut goal against Man City, I think, in the cup.
Yep, in the cup. That's right. 1-1, wasn't it?
Scott's making us all feel old here. I started with the Martin O'Neill era.
You're lucky, Scott. You missed all the shit.
Yeah. Although he's had a fair bit since, let's be honest.
No, not as much as we went through, I'll tell you.
Well, look,
there you go.
This is the first one up. And this was the guy that's got one vote already. Please type WM for worst manager, put WM and the name. Doesn't have to be one of these 10, but that would help us if you did. But Frank McClintock, June 77 to April 78. He managed 40 games. He won 5 of those, drawn 12, lost 23, a win percentage of 12.5. If we went on wins alone, he would win it hands down. he took over from, and I remember Jimmy Bloomfield. He was in charge when I really started to get into Leicester, when I went down to start watching them live. And we had some of the best players we'd ever had at the club, the Wellers, the Worthingtons. I mean, it was a great squad that he'd got together there. And they always said we were the best team never to actually win anything. And I can remember Birch always saying that Martin O'Neill, when he came in, kept saying, why does everybody go on about the Bloomfield yet? What did he actually win? Nothing. But it was such a great team. And then the fans wanted him out. And this is why I always use that as my "be careful what you wish for" quote.
Yeah.
And he went. And I think we'd finished 7th. And then this gentleman took over for the next season.
You know what, though? I reckon, I don't know, you've got the stats. Jimmy Bloomfield's win ratio weren't great because of the way we played. And that was the problem. And also, I reckon we only had about 11 or 12 players that could play in that first team. Because when Birch got injured for the Cup in 72, 74, we had nobody to come in. Mike Stringfellow was past it by then, but he had to play. And we just disintegrated as a team.
Oh, no. I mean, Bloomfield's win record, he was manager for 285 games. He won 85 of those, win just literally under 30%. So his win ratio wasn't brilliant, but to watch
brilliant,
to watch them was unbelievable. This guy just retired, Scottish international, ex-player, although he's obviously more well-known for Arsenal, but he was at Leicester before then. We got him back in, but Jimmy Bloomfield basically was, hounded out by the fans, if we're honest. Everybody wanted him gone. Why aren't we winning anything? Why aren't we winning anything? Well, he stood down, he resigned, and then we got relegated.
Do you remember some of the players, though, Chris? If you were a youngster then watching, were you? You must have been distraught. I mean, he brought all his old Arsenal boys in.
Yeah.
George Armstrong and Jeff Salmons and, Roger Davis from Derby.
Yeah.
Who scored goals for fun at Derby. I don't think he scored for us. Billy Hughes, who was past it, who won the cup with Sunderland. Who else was there? Somebody called, I remember, Lammy Robertson. Do you remember him?
Well, I mean, Eddie Kelly.
Eddie Kelly weren't quite so bad, was he? But
I was going to here. I mean, these are the ones I've heard of. Dave
Webb, yeah.
George Armstrong.
Yeah. Alan Waddle, bought from Liverpool, I think.
Lammy Robertson, never heard of him.
Yeah, Lammy Robertson, dreadful.
It says here, all of whom were coming to the end of their careers. And that says it all, doesn't it, really?
I'd moved to Surrey by then. We got married in 77, moved down to Leatherhead. And we drove up, my wife and I drove up. In fact, I banned her after a couple of cup games. We drove up to Walsall. And I think it was the 4th round of the FA Cup. And the Leicester players were on the pitch advertising razors because they'd all grown beards or something. And I was in the cold side of the Walsall stand.
Right.
And it was horrendous. I mean, the game was horrible. We got beat 1 or 2-0, I think. I think Walsall were probably in the old 3rd division in those days anyway. It was just an embarrassment. And then I took my wife, Kathy, down to see the Portsmouth game in the League Cup because Portsmouth was a bit closer to us than Walsall. And that was on a cold, wet night and nobody was interested. Weller, Worthington, none of them wanted to play for him. It might have just well been Mickey Mouse 11 versus Portsmouth. It was horrible. It took about 20 years to be allowed back to see a Leicester game after that.
Well, I mean, you mentioned there Roger Davis, didn't you? He spent £250,000 now back, and this was what we're saying there, 1977.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a lot of money.
Well, Keith Weller only cost 100,000 from Chelsea, so you can imagine.
Yeah. And Roger Davis was no Keith Weller.
No. He scored a cracking goal for Derby. Do you remember he beat back 10 players twice and put it in the net? I didn't see any of that at Leicester. Anything like that at all. He was just hopeless.
I mean, here we go. This to me, I mean, McClintock joined. He only had 2 proper managerial jobs.
Yeah.
He joined us in June '77. I mean, Jimmy Bloomfield the season before had taken us to 11th. So we finished 11th. And let's be honest with you, now we would take 11th. He sold Frank Worthington to Bolton Wanderers for £20,000. He sold. Now, just let that sink in if you're watching. Frank Worthington for £20,000. That's what we sold him for, and yet we signed Roger Davies for 250. I mean,
embarrassing, isn't it? Embarrassing. You know why, though, don't you? Frank Worthington wouldn't do as he's told, and Jimmy Bloomfield allowed him quite a bit of loose because of the player he was. McClintock came in and wanted the Don Howe style, who I think was Joe Mercer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it Joe Mercer or was Man City? But you know that sort, the military.
Oh, Malison.
No, I'm thinking of Arsenal. It means was it?
Oh, Arsenal.
Was it Joe Mercer? No, it was well before that time. It was manager when they did the double and stuff like that.
George Gray, not George.
The first time, no, much earlier. That 71, the 71-72 season.
I'm not.
Oh, for God's sake! Anyway, it doesn't matter who it was, but that's how he tried to run Leicester. And bearing in mind he'd taken over from Jimmy Bloomfield and the sort of players Leicester had, the Wellers, Worthingtons, Birchinalls, John Samuels, it couldn't happen. Shots. Oh, yeah.
but yeah, I mean the signings he made. He resigned in April '78 with relegation all but confirmed. We finished bottom that year. Like you say, you can see there. I mean, I think there was 24 teams in the what was then the first division.
22, wasn't it?
No, I think it was 20. I think it was 24 back then. To be honest with
Really?
you, I would stand to be corrected. I'm sure somebody in the chat will say, but we played 40 games. Well, he'd managed 40 games by then, which probably included some cup ones as well. And he resigned. And like somebody said earlier, a great example of why not to have an ex-player as a manager. And I'm sure if Brad was in, he'd be sat here going, Frank Lampard. But he actually, after we sacked him, and I didn't realise this, he was actually taken on by Terry Venables as a coach at Queen's Park Rangers. Yeah. And he then went on as well to manage Brentford in February '84 with the B second from bottom of the third division. And he resigned in '87. So he stayed there a little bit longer, but probably better as a pundit than he ever was as a manager. And this is your choice, is it not, as worst ever Leicester City manager?
Without a shadow of doubt.
And is that, do you think, because of what he destroyed?
Yeah, and also because I just moved to Surrey and I got so much shit about Leicester, how bad Leicester were. That I shall never forgive him for it. I'm sorry.
I must admit,
but look at the record, Chris. It speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yes. Now, and I must admit, I've got to say I'm with you on that one, because we did a thing, like I said before the show earlier on, in I think it was last season, McClintock versus Taylor, and just knowing what he destroyed. And when we will come on to Peter Taylor obviously later, he's got to be included in this then. But what he destroyed was like a team that was together, was a workmanlike team. You know, under Martin O'Neill, we never had a Weller, we never had a Worthington, but what we had was, you know, a group, probably about 15 players that gave 110%. But it's just remembering what Leicester could have been and what he destroyed.
I think Frank Worthington was moaning every week about the style of play, you know, and that's why he sold him. But I also think, did he sell Bob Lee and Chris Garland, who you might remember? Chris Garland came into us, saved us from relegation one year by scoring, I don't know, 8 or 9 in 10 games or something silly like that. And Bob Lee was becoming a decent striker. And I don't know whether McClintock sold them or Jimmy Bloomfield, but they were sold off for some reason. I think, I don't know. I just found the football awful. When I got to games, I just saw the players he was buying.
Yeah.
And thought, this is embarrassing, you know, it's awful. And
was it Don Howe you were thinking of at Arsenal?
Yeah, Don Howe, very military, very strict.
We had a suit and tie on, if I remember.
Yeah. I mean, he was one of the old brigade, even before Bobby Robson's era, but they were very strict about how it all went and, you know, just horrendous.
Yes, definitely. McClintock says
He did sell him.
Terry says here, today's fans just don't know how bad we can get yet. I mean, I've got to say, and it's the same when you look at Man United. I mean, when you come to think that the Premier League has been going for 30-odd years, so Man United fans that are under 30 will only have ever known success.
Yeah.
So when we go on about, you know, Man United fans being entitled, you've got to think that they won't remember the pre-Ferguson years. And it's the same with Leicester. You know, we did have a club before 2015, and to be honest with you, we were shit at times. There's no doubt about it. But,
we were, but in the 60s, we were good.
Yeah,
I think we got to the FA Cup final 3 times in the 60s.
We did.
We didn't win
it once, of course, but
we got close to getting Europe or winning the league a couple of times in the 60s. We had some serious internationals.
You were talking about, and we'll just mention this quickly. I mean, Dave Halliday, our first sort of manager, if you like, that wasn't sort of, well, you had Norman Bullock, but the board, in those days, it was different how managers worked. But David Halliday got us second division champions in 56, 57. Then, as you say, Matt Gillis, during the 60s, FA Cup runners-up 61, 63, League Cup winners 64, League Cup runners-up 65. Then Franco Farrell took over, FA Cup runners-up 69, second division champions 70 to 71. I mean, we hold the record along with Manchester City for having got promoted out of the second tier more times than any other club.
Yeah,
but it also means we've been relegated more times as well.
And generally, apart from once, and I can't remember who was manager, we lost on goal difference to Coventry, which made it even worse. We went down. We drew at home to Coventry. We should have beat them, and because of that, we went down and they stayed up. And Coventry had never been relegated then at all. You know, that was the thing they always worked on. Then they won the FA Cup, which made it worse, didn't it?
Yeah.
But
what's happened to them these days? Who knows?
Well, who knows? Where do they play, on the Rec, or are they still at?
Who Coventry? I think
that's
where they're playing now because the ground's been seized.
Well, they keep getting it repossessed, don't they? What's wrong?
They do. Doug is in. In an attempt to deter computer hackers, I've changed all my passwords to Brazil Nut. That will be a hard one to crack.
Are you foreign in disguise?
That's what you deserve. I have got a nut joke, but we're after 9 o'clock. But no, I don't want to be challenged by the LPGT community, so I'm not going to say it.
Okay,
but,
you know the other thing at that time, our average home attendance was something like 10, 11, 12,000. So nobody was bothering to turn up either.
No.
And I think all right, our capacity was probably actually might be more than 21,000 in them days before they put seats in. So it could have been 25, 30,000. The fact that there weren't even half full in the ground, the board must have realised there was a problem.
Yes, yeah. Well, moving on, he gets our 2 votes anyway. Unfortunately, on that one. Now, the next manager will certainly hold the record, but I think for being the shortest permanent manager ever in Leicester City's history. And I'm saying permanent manager here. He lasted less time than what's she called, Liz Truss, as Prime Minister. That's how bad he was. Well, but was he? I mean, we've got this memory of him being bad, but Martin Allen, one of Mandrich's many managers in the time that he was here. And as you can see from that, May 2007 to August 2007, he has got a 50% win rate, but he only managed 4 games, but he only lost one of them.
Yeah, and I remember his last game, Watford at home. We were brilliant. I was so excited in the stand because I thought, actually, we cracked it. This guy's going to take us places. And the worry started when he came out and almost did a trip around the ground, applauding the fans. I thought, what's all that about? Something's not right here. And, of course, the reason was that Mandrich wanted to buy players and Martin Allen told him to shove it.
Yes, yeah. I think we had the unfortunate incident with Clark Carlisle, didn't he?
Well, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, was it? Mandrich wanted to sign.
Yes.
Is that right?
I think that was the straw camel's back moment, to be honest with you.
Did he turn up for a medical and then Martin Allen told him it had been cancelled? Something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, but then again, I mean, it's still happening. They reckon with the likes of Chelsea, but as a manager, you've got to look at and go, well, you should be making the decisions. But apparently he came in with the basis of wanting to change everything. He was having the flowers changed at the King Power, so they were blue and white. But this is where one of these moments I'm going to have 2 of these moments in the show tonight, where you see that the person that you perceive them to be are not the ones that they actually are, if you like. Because I was living in Burnley at the time with my son, and I was just getting him into Leicester. And one of the games that was in charge was Accrington Stanley away in the League Cup. And we turned up. It was an evening game. We went down to Accrington Stanley. We went down and we had our pint of milk in our hands and everything. And they were warming up before the match. And he'd picked some really, really odd players. It was one of those like, it's the League Cup and I'm picking, some of the unknown players, if you like. And my son turned around to me and went, Dad, why has he picked so-and-so and so-and-so? And I went, do you know what, Sean? I've really absolutely no idea. I said, but look. And I looked over and you were stood outside. You would say changing rooms, but this was Accrington. So you were stood outside the hut and leaning on a bar. I went, why don't you go and ask him? And he went, no, I can't do that. I went, what have we got to lose? He can only sort of, tell you it's none of your business sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he went, all right, then, I will, Dad. And he went over. And you know what? He spent 10 minutes with him explaining all his team tactics for the game. And it absolutely made Sean's sort of night, obviously, as you can imagine. He came back and he said, can't tell you anything, though, Dad. He's told me not to tell you. Oh, it's brilliant. But, that's the other side to these managers. But he came with a great reputation in a way. Because was it Barnet he was at before?
He has been at Barnet. I think
Milton Keynes Dons. He'd
that's it. MK Dons. Yeah.
He was at Reading as assistant. Then he went to Barnet. Then he went to Brentford. Then he went to Milton Keynes. He's obviously a very keen golfer when you look at how many clubs he's had. Because after us, he went to Cheltenham, back to Barnet, to Notts County, back to Barnet, Gillingham, back to Barnet, Eastleigh, back to Barnet, Chesterfield. I mean, how many times can you go back to one club?
Well, they have him back.
Yes.
But I think he would have given us a little bit of excitement. Yeah, you're right. It called Mad Dog. Yeah, and that's what we needed at the time. We needed somebody to, after what we've been through, we needed somebody to fire it up and get everybody performing. And I think Mandaric, he saved us allegedly, but I think his ego was far too big to run a football club. It had to be the way he wanted it or nothing at all, and that's not.
Well, yeah, but again, you could say, well, it was his money.
Yeah, but can you imagine Brian Clough putting up with that, or even Martin O'Neill?
No, you couldn't. Agreed 100%.
They're quite successful, weren't they?
Yes, yeah. I just think, for me, because I met Milan Mandaric at the same game. Because I was queuing to pick. At those days, you pick the tickets up away. If you hadn't bought them in advance, they away tickets at the ground, and I ordered mine late. Milan was there, and he signed the shirt, and he spent again, a few minutes talking to us, and we'd already gone bust once, if you remember, and Gary Lineker and his consortium had saved us. And then, he just sold Portsmouth, said he wanted to spend a bit of time outside of the, football. But of course, Birch knew him from when Birch played in America at the end of his career.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Because Mandaric owned a club in America. And I can remember being at one game and Milan Mandaric was in the crowd and everybody was singing, Milan is a Leicester fan, and all that. And he saved us from. I don't think we'd have come back from that one if he had.
No. I mean, I'm not knocking him for that. He did a brilliant job for Leicester, but I just think he should have stayed doing that. A bit like, the owners now have done, and let the manager manage.
Yeah.
In our case, at the moment, it's probably not a good idea, but in those days, that's what should have happened, and I think it could have worked. I really do. But I don't know. He only had, what's he say, 4 games?
Four league games, I think it was. Yes,
he was there for about 2 or 3 months, but only had 4 league games, didn't he?
Yeah, no, you're right. August 2007, striker Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank agreed contract terms with Leicester, and chairman Milan Mandaric invited him to go undergo a medical. But when Hasselbank arrived in Leicester on the 13th of August, Alan told him that the medical was no longer going to take place. 6 days later, Mandaric confirmed an interest in striker Derek Riordan, who was lacking first-team football at Celtic. However, Alan refused to make an offer for Riordan. I mean, which obviously aggravated Mandaric. I mean, how can you say no to Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank? That's the thing.
I think it was past his best, wasn't it? He'd left Chelsea 2 or 3 years, and he was sort of on loan somewhere, and he was struggling to get games. So again, he was well past his sell-by date, I think. Yeah, and maybe Martin Allen saw that. He's a manager of football, And
as I say, I'm all for chairman. Like I say, it's their money; they can do what they want with the club as long as they keep the club going. But very much like you say, come along and recommend players, but don't let the manager decide, because the manager's got to play with them. And of course, was the very famous incident, which thankfully turned out all right, when we were playing Nottingham Forest. In the was it the FA or the League Cup? I can't remember.
I think it was the FA Cup.
Yeah, and at half time, Clark Carlisle, who we'd got on loan, I think, from Sunderland. No,
it was Clive Clark.
Clive Clark, that was it. I know there was a Clark in there somewhere. Clive Clark, and he had a heart attack, and the game was cancelled. And of course, it led us to, because we were losing 1-0 at the time, it led us to replay the game. And of course, we let them score.
Was that under the Ginger Winger?
I can't remember.
Was actually a Forest manager as well, or player?
No, we got Megson by then, and obviously is another one that we'll be coming to.
That's right.
And,
Megson, yeah.
Anthony said here, big up Chris and Jim Davison. But we let them score, and we only just scraped through, to be honest with you, and that was another manager that didn't last long. But just to let you know, guys, if you're in the chat, we have done Frank McClintock, and we're just finishing now on Martin Allen. We're not doing them in any particular order, but I've noticed them. Brad has mentioned about Ian Holloway. We'll come to him.
Brad.
I'm not reading out your comments now. It's only because obviously we're not talking about Ian Holloway. So please repost when we do.
Do you want to talk about Holloway?
Right, but that was Martin Allen. Next contender. There we go, Mr. Ian Holloway. I'd forgotten he was up next. Another manager where he wanted. I think the thing I liked about Ian Holloway was he wanted to come to Leicester. You know, he was at Plymouth. And he was put on gardening leave because he wanted to come to Leicester. They didn't want him to.
That happened to him at QPR.
Yeah.
Was it? QPR was put on gardening leave because Leicester were in for him.
Yeah, but then didn't join us. He didn't join us in QPR. He then went on to Plymouth. Yeah. And then he finally... Now, to me, you know, everybody says, he was a crap manager. He took us down to the 3rd tier. He wasn't a bad manager. He took Blackpool to the Premier League. And I think at one point, Blackpool were top of the league a bit for 1 week. But so he wasn't a bad manager. But he didn't have the best of tactics, to be honest with you. And he didn't have the best of players because at that time, for me, we're talking there sort of your 2007s, 2008s, that we'd only just stayed up for like the previous 3 or 4 seasons. And I think it was always a case of when rather than if we were going to go down. And he came, and I think, to be honest with you, if Pep or Jose or Jurgen had come in at that time, we'd have gone down. It was just fate. And I think in a way, looking back, it was the best thing that could have possibly happened to us. But again, my son was actually mascot at Leicester were playing Burnley. And we drew 1-1 with them, and we scored both goals. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? And I went to meet Sean, and he was walking out the ground with Ian Holloway. And Ian Holloway was going, that was a better second half, wasn't it? And I looked at him, and I wish I'd had the balls to say, no, we're just the shit. We only won because they scored an equaliser for us. But I didn't. But again, lovely, lovely guy off. But I think he was possibly the right manager, just at the wrong time.
Yeah. I remember him when he was boss at QPR, and we got tickets for a box there. I think it was QPR Villa from the Royal Marsden Hospital. And he came into the box afterwards and talked to us about the game. And I said, well, I thought the Villa goal might have been a bit offside because we were right in line with it. Oh, do you think it was? Because I was not sure about it, and I didn't. And he was talking like that, as if you were just chatting over the game with him as a coach. So I have no argument with that. Nice guy, away from it all. Made a lot of mistakes. Shouldn't have left Plymouth. But as a football manager for us, he was a nightmare.
He was, but I do honestly think that, like I say, he had the proverb. It was like Theresa May taking over from David Cameron. You know, he had that hot potato that was given to him. I think it was Craig Levein, wasn't it, who was manager possibly before him. I think Brad was just saying that.
He had a bad record, didn't he?
No, Craig Levein was before Rob Kelly, Nigel Worthington and Martin Allen. And then Craig... Where it is, and then
who was before Holloway? Then
before Ian Holloway followed Megson, but
Megson was there for about a month, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, but vying with Allen for the shortest manager.
Yeah,
I mean, he managed 32 games. He won 9, drawn 8, lost 15, 28% win rate. I mean, he had to go because we got relegated. You know, there was no way that he was going to stay, obviously. But, you know, the first time we'd ever been down into the 3rd tier in our career. But like I said, for me, it was a good manager just at the wrong time. But he also didn't have a good squad. I mean, he was playing Ian Hume on the wing instead of as a striker.
Wow.
And I think Martin Allen, because I think if you remember when Martin Allen was manager, we were like kids in a sweet shop. We were buying, any player that was going, not unlike the Sven area. But I think Martin Allen, all he did was buy wingers. I think we had about 10 wingers in the side at one point. My God, we could do one of those now, couldn't we?
He must have bought, I only bought about, 15 players. No wonder. Well, seemed to work. Didn't we have Carl Court?
Yes, we did.
Was that from Newcastle or was it from somewhere else?
I'm not sure where.
I know he played for Newcastle for Bobby Robson. That might have been after us. That might have been after we had him.
I'm sure somebody will tell us on that.
But also, a guy that did do all right, I think, was it Ray Clements' son?
Stephen Clements.
Stephen Clements. Didn't he? Was it him? Is he the son of Ray or is he somebody else?
I'm not sure if it was. I'm guessing because it's not exactly a common name.
But he did okay for us.
Do you remember Nicky Summerby?
Oh God, yeah.
No, he actually played for us free of charge. I don't think that was under Holloway though, but I think that was under somebody else. Because he couldn't get a team and we couldn't afford. He just came so he could play and keep his name going.
That's right.
Might have been Holloway actually. I have a feeling that it wasn't, but yeah, it was in that sort of Levein, Allen Holloway era sort of thing. But
they were bad times.
Yeah, I can't. I've put him in there, and he's in there for the obvious reason. I mean, when he left, when he was sort of started out as Bristol Rovers manager, he was there for 5 years, as Anthony said. QPR, then to Plymouth, then to Leicester, though we did have to wait for him. Then to Blackpool, Palace, Millwall, QPR again, and Grimsby up to 2 years ago. He was still managing at Grimsby. But like I say, at Blackpool. To get Blackpool promoted, okay, it was via the playoffs, but we've been thankful for that a couple of times. But I think that shows that he's not exactly the worst manager ever going.
I think when nobody expects it, when you're the underdog, he seems to do it okay. With Leicester, it was expected, and he couldn't cope with it because he was playing players out of position. We weren't playing with confidence. I remember, the game against Sheffield Wednesday, I think it was at home, that really killed it. We missed a penalty. I think Ian Hume missed a penalty. Who was in goal then? The ball bounced over his head, I think, and went in. It was the old Sheffield Wednesday keeper we had.
Oh, Pressman.
Yeah.
Kevin Pressman.
I think it was a horrendous day. We weren't actually relegated that day, but realised that it was all over.
Yeah. No, Nicky Summerby was with us. Let's have a look. Under Mickey Adams, yep. You're quite right there, Brad. He was there 2002-03. Because, of course, that was the time when we again went into relegation. Administration, administration.
Up and down,
yeah. So that was Ian Holloway, our fourth one. Who is next? Mike thinks it might be somebody called Taylor. But coming up next is Claude Puel. Wow. Okay. Now, was it that bad under Puel?
Not to start with. But then that's what my Saints fans told me. He'll be all right to start with, and then he'll get boring. And they pass sideways, backwards, every way but up. He got sacked. Was it Southampton just for a year, wasn't he? And they got in the final of the League Cup, lost unluckily to Man United.
Yeah, 2016-17, and he got them to a full. Palace have just equalised against Man United on the 90th minute. So there's all our predictions gone out the window. He'd been at, it started off at Monaco, Lyon and Nice, before Nice, which is obviously also owned by the gentleman that's trying to buy Man United at the moment. Then he went to Southampton, got them to the final, but they did sack him, and he came to us. And I know a lot of I mean, I've got a friend who's a Southampton fan. My God, that was a good free kick as well. As a Southampton fan, and they said, he'll bore you to death.
Yeah.
And he did.
And of course, he had the Mahrez incident, didn't he?
Yes.
To deal with.
Yes.
And Silva, was it, 16 seconds or something after the deadline? But then wouldn't put him in the squad.
No. Well, they couldn't, could they? They weren't allowed.
No, I mean, in January or the following.
I think he went into the squad in January, but by then, of course, he'd got a squad and that was playing regularly. I think he was like one of those that you could file under one that got away sort of thing,
Yeah, I thought he was a good player.
Yeah.
Silva, but mind you, we swapped him Tielemans in the end.
Don't think we swapped him. I think
Monaco. Yeah, sort of. Yeah,
I think it was, possibly around the same time. But he did it. Yeah, he did do a good job in reconstruction because I mean it was like post Ranieri / Shakespeare, and he came in. He saved us from relegation. He also had the Vichai helicopter.
Yeah, horrendous. Not a good time, was it?
Yeah, no, not at all. So he didn't have it. He didn't have it good. He bore her as well. Yep, he's another one that was under him. I just again, it's be careful what you wish for because yes, he was boring, but we were mid-table when I think we got rid of him, or certainly not in the trouble we are now. And is the style of play we are playing now any better than it was under Puel when he left?
Well, no, clearly not.
No.
But then I don't know what was his success rate, Chris? Less than 40.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we look at it there, his success rate 34%, 67 games. Yeah, won 23, drew 18, lost 26. So
I got my wrong glasses on for that.
No, it's not the worst. I've got to be honest with you. It's a long way from being the worst. But yeah, Andre Silva, as you were saying, let me just get rid of Holloway. He left him out of the first. You're quite right, actually. Andre Silva left him out of the first team squad and made him train with the under 23s.
Yeah, that's right.
We lost to Newport under him.
Yeah.
He joined when he joined us. We were 13th.
He played almost the reserve side at Newport, didn't he?
Yes, yeah. Which, in fairness, when you're thinking, still should have been good enough.
Yeah, should have been, but
Yeah. I mean, Brad, agree with you totally here, Brad. He may have been boring, but did he lay the? But he did lay the foundations for youth players. Yeah, he brought Barnes back to the club, although you could argue that was maybe sort of an attempt to save his job. But, he would have gone, Brad always says this, and it's a good point, he won, was it Man City and Chelsea something over Christmas, or Liverpool that saved his job, but he was sacked on the 24th of February. Here we go. Actually, that Newport County, it was in January 2019, in which Puel was jeered by Leicester fans for fielding an understrength side, and it was voted by the BBC viewers as the biggest upset of the competition.
Nah, it's not that.
No, I don't think. I think whether it was that season, possibly, but
it should have been at Harlow or home to Wickham.
Yeah. Oh, don't mention Wickham. Whatever you do. It's finished 1-1 United Palace, by the way. Of course, he went to Saint Etienne. He left there in December 2021, and he's obviously not working yet at the moment. But again, I think it was his style of play, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know what it was. It was nothing, was it? There was nothing there really. Although he had some decent players.
Yes.
He had what could have been a very attacking sort of team, but we didn't seem to put it together on a regular basis. And I suppose, he seemed a decent bloke, but he he didn't show that energy. It's like Brendan Rodgers claps when there's no need to clap. You need to bollock somebody sometimes.
Yes.
Because applauding them for something that's rubbish defeats the object.
Definitely. And I think, for me, when Puel went, Brendan Rodgers came in and he suddenly got because Puel couldn't seem to get the best out of Jamie Vardy, could he?
No.
And Rodgers came in and he seemed, he got him scoring again, and suddenly it was like brilliant. We're back to this fast attacking football, which just seems to have literally disappeared again.
I mean, you think about what had happened before Puel came in. We wouldn't be a lower league title, but we'd win it. Things were looking good, and suddenly there's no optimism anymore, and that's what a manager needs to give you, optimism. And that's where we're going wrong now. We can't. I mean, we've got Brighton on Saturday, and I'm dreading going up there.
Yes.
I mean, you should be excited about it, but I'm just dreading it.
I think we all are. But when he signed, he actually won out. He won his first game in charge, which very few managers have done, in fairness. One of the only other ones that did it, funny enough, Ian Holloway. But he recorded only 3 wins from 14 league games from the end of January 2018. A run that saw Puel accused of negative football. Yeah, I'm not surprised. And there we go. As you said, his decision to block Riyad Mahrez's transfer to Manchester City on deadline day resulted in the player going absent from training for 10 days. That said, again, if he doesn't want to sell him, that's fine. He shouldn't sell him. And I don't blame Puel for that at all. In fact, I blame Mahrez.
But 67 games is that he managed. I find that seems staggering to me that he had so long. I mean, I'm not for sacking people quickly, but, it was clear it wasn't right.
I think he's like I said earlier, Brad mentions this. He would have gone, I think, in the December, but he got 2 wins over Christmas. I can remember being at my brother-in-law's for Christmas, and he's a big Man United fan, but we were playing Manchester City, and somebody's a joke, we got him a Manchester City mug. And we were playing them that Boxing Day, and we won. So he came out with a drink for me in the Manchester City mug. Bless him. But like Mike says there, Mardi Mahrez, and Puel, he could well have messed up our chances of getting Fofana, but we got him in the end. But we know that was probably as much Fofana causing trouble as we now know. So that was Puel, and if anything, he'll be remembered for. I think he conducted himself very well during the whole
definitely
Vichai episode, and rest in peace Vichai, obviously. It's not easy to have that sort of distraction, and I'm not being awful when I say distraction, but obviously it's bound to have. So it affected all the players because of the man that Vichai was, and I think he handled himself very, very well during that whole episode. But he will be remembered, unfortunately, for footballing football.
Yeah.
So next up, it was mentioned earlier, Brad's favourite manager, Craig Levein. I was quite hopeful when we brought him in, November 2004 to January 2006. He managed us for 70 games. He won only 20 of those, losing 25 and drawing 25. A win percent of 28.57%. Out of his depth, really, wasn't he?
Well, I would have kind of been excited about it and thought we were going somewhere. Then he went and bought Rab Douglas, I think, didn't he?
Yes. Well, when we said about Frank McClintock buying all his Arsenal cronies, this guy, I suppose, he was Hearts manager, and I think he got Hearts to win a cup or second in the league, something like that. So he did
well.
Yeah, he did well again, but we know managers doing well in Scotland doesn't mean they're going to do well in this country. Mr. Gerrard, Mr. Rogers. But he did bring... Now, I've got to say, another... When Shaw, my eldest, was mascot, and this was in the day when you only had one mascot per team. And again, it was away at Burnley, and Leicester very kindly... he didn't have away mascots in those
I know
days.
what you're going to say now. I know who scored. Are you going to say who scored against us, or was that was at Filbert Street?
Yeah, no, this one was at Turf
Burnley
Moor.
at Turf Moor. Sorry, okay. Yeah. I'll tell you who scored against us at Filbert Street.
Right, I know. I think it was Akinbaye that scored against us. It
was
Turf Moor. Because as you walked out, of course, I didn't have a Leicester shirt on because it was at Burnley. So
yeah.
And as he walked out, I lifted my shirt up and I had my Leicester shirt on underneath. And he did reel back in shock, I think, at one point, but very kindly shook my hand and what have you. But no, again, Craig Levein, lovely, lovely man. He said to my son, he said, right, anybody you've not got a photograph with? And my son said, oh, I think Ian Hume. And he went, all right, let's sort this out. And he took Sean on the bus before it set off.
Oh, wow.
But Ian, get your down here, get a pic. And he'd already done one with him, bless him, but he came down, did another picture with him. So again, lovely man outside of obviously his job.
Yeah.
But he did buy some awful, awful players.
Apart from, did he buy Matty Fryatt from
he was
Walsall?
In his squad, I think.
Walsall. I'm sure he bought him. Not sure how much for, but I think he joined us at Christmas.
Well, November. Yeah, November.
Was it November? Was it Fryatt?
Yeah.
Matty Fryatt? No, Matty Fryatt. I think he bought.
Oh, Matty Fryatt, right.
Whether it was Christmas 2004 or 5, I can't remember. But I remember that because he scored on his debut, even though I think we got beat. And we thought, oh, he's bringing in youngsters. This is brilliant. Ian Hume and Matty Fryatt played well together, and it was starting to look good. But it doesn't look good looking at these statistics here.
No. Well, this is the team from the 2006 season. So he only came in halfway through that season. Like you say, in December, 2004. He came in halfway through that season. So let us go and have a look at his full season, which would have been sort of 5-6. He wasn't really there that long. Right? Let me just tell you, these are some of the players. The only good thing about this time was that my favourite shirt, which was the black with the red, the blue crossover, was the original Foss shirt. But Peter Canero.
Oh dear.
Danny Tiato.
Not bad.
Nikos Dabizas.
Newcastle reject, wasn't he?
Yeah. Brad's favourite ever Leicester City player, Stephen Hughes. Keith Gillespie.
Ooh.
Lillian Nallis, who obviously went on to score the best ever goal seen at Leicester.
That's
Dion
all he did.
Buckley,
Yeah.
Who was captain and Sean's favourite. Well, he was captain, so he looked after Sean. Scott Gemmell, Gareth Williams. Do you remember Gareth Williams?
Blimey, yeah.
David Connolly.
Yeah, he was a good player for us.
Yeah, he stayed on. Paddy
I
McCarthy.
don't know what went wrong with Connolly. Whether he got injured or we just sold him off. But
he did actually agree to come on and do a chat on the channel, but he never kind of followed it up.
Okay, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Interesting to know what happened.
Jason Wilcox. A lot of these were sort of seen better days.
Yeah.
Joey Goodjohnson.
Oh, he's a good player for us, isn't he?
Yeah, scoring from the halfway line before Beckham was even a twinkle in his dad's eye. Alan Mabry. Now then,
From Forest.
There's two players that I think if we ever had a Hall of Fame, two players should get in there without even thinking about it. They should just automatically walk in. Ask me later who the other one is, but the first one, Mark de Vries. What are your memories of Mark de Vries?
Interesting. Was he left footer? I remember, and rather tall, but interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, he was awful. He came from Scotland. I think he might have been Hearts, to be honest with you.
He actually was from Hearts, if I remember. Yeah.
And he was bloody awful. And I remember, and again, me and Brad talk about this game. We were playing Spurs in, I think it was a League Cup game at night, and Martin Yole, was it Martin Yole was their man? Anyway, we were 2-0 down, and we was like, it was over. And we got it back to 2-2. Elvis Hammond scored as well again in this game.
Oh, Fulham legend.
Yeah, we wish he'd left the building, I tell you. R.I.P. to, obviously, Lisa Presley. But Mark de Vries scored the winning goal. I can remember turning to my son, watching it on the telly, going like, God, he's going to miss this, because it was Mark de Vries. You know, de Vries no use, as Mike says there. No, it's not DJ Campbell, but it's a good shout. It's a good shout. You'll know who I'm come to when we come to him, Brad. But yeah, de Vries, and I said he's never going to score this. And that's the only time I can remember him scoring for us. The Akinbaye of his area.
Don't. Oh, blimey. Can you imagine all them?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'd sooner have Mark de Vries. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah. He bumped into a friend of his. Says Mike, he was manic about Hearts losing Levein. But I think this is it. Saying like, and I know I joked before about Gerrard and obviously Rodgers, but being good, whether it's a manager or a player in Scotland, does not guarantee that you're going to do well in England, is it?
No, because every team in the Premier League can beat every team in the Premier League.
Yes.
That's not said for any in Scotland. You probably the top three will do it.
Yes.
But not going to happen.
Again, this was, he was manager Craig Levein leading up to the relegation. I'm just going to have a look. And I've lost it now. But where do we go here? Craig Levein, then it was Rob Kelly, Nigel Worthington, Martin Allen, Gary Megson, Ian Holloway. But that was the start of when we were really struggling, weren't we? Because we had years and years where we were kind of always sort of anywhere between sort of halfway and middle of the bottom half of the second tier table.
We always started off with great idea, and Rob Kelly came in, thought, yeah, brilliant, this is going well. What was he there? Just over a year?
Levein.
Yeah, just over a year he was there, wasn't he? We got through a lot of managers at that stage.
Yeah, we did. It was was it Mandrich at the time? I don't think it was it?
It was, yeah.
Was it right? Yeah. Rob Kelly, we were the last team to manage, but I remember only a few years ago, he was at Preston or somewhere.
He's still somewhere now, doing some assistant manager or something.
But again, a bit like Shakespeare, absolutely brilliant. Because I remember the same as you when he took over. And he had a period of sort of when first taking over that he was absolutely brilliant, and then it kind of went wrong for him. But that's Craig Levein, and then next up, Mr. Pleat. Talk to me about Mr. Pleat, David.
I used to watch him play for Nuneaton Borough. He used to play right wing, and he could never straighten his knees. He ran with bent knees. I have no idea why. But he came in, and he was this after his Tottenham curb crawling episode.
Yeah, it came to us because he came to us after Tottenham.
Yeah, he resigned from Tottenham because he apparently been picking up girls.
Yes.
And he came in, and I swear to God, nobody understood the word he said, because every time he was interviewed, I had no idea what he was talking about. I mean, the records race is actually pretty average, isn't it? 31%.
Yeah. It was 157 games he was with us, though.
Yeah, that's staggering, isn't it? Because we were only in Division 2 or Championship as it now is, and we didn't seem to be getting out of it. And in fact, did Holloway take over from him, or was that different era? Because we were close to going down to Division 3 1 year.
We were when he took over. No, it was a different era. David Fleet was, because when he left, he took us over when we were about to go down, and he left us as we were about to go down.
Yeah,
we got Gordon Lee in.
Gordon Lee saved us. Yeah,
he saved us, and then of course Brian Little, who I have had on this channel, Brian Little came in, and the rest, as they say. But
you say that Brian Little in the Premier League. We're talking about David Pleat. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm just going to say he we took him straight on after he was sacked, and of course when he left Tottenham Hotspur, he was replaced by Terry Venables, who the club wanted to bring in, and they used the curb calling allegedly as the reason for letting him go. But he came straight to us after that, almost straight away. And we'd just been relegated from the First Division. He was 3 years with us before he was dismissed in 1991. And we hadn't obviously got re-promoted. And it was looking more like it was relegated to Third Division. We never finished above mid-table while Pleat was in charge. But he did. Again, he was almost in advance of himself, because he did have some good ideas. He had a few ideas like Wenger had, about diet and things like that before Wenger came along.
Actually, did all right at Tottenham, didn't he? As you say, I mean, he was doing all right, and no reason why he shouldn't do all right at Leicester. But it was awful. Again, we were just tottering away in half mid-table or going down. There was never any spark there to make it happen. I don't know whether he had it. I don't think he had any money either, did he?
No.
At Tottenham he had money available, but at Leicester was sort of.
I mean, his last season, one of his seasons at Tottenham, he played with just one striker all season, Clive Allen, who got 49 goals.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we love one of those, these days? But apparently, I was reading earlier, when he was sacked, he got a call from Terry Shipman, who was chairman at the time, and Terry said, "Look, bad news." And he said, "Well, I've been expecting the call because I think they just lost the previous game." He said, "Yeah, I wanted you to stay, but they want you out the board, so unfortunately we're going to have to sack you. But the board also want me out as chairman as well, and I've been sacked as chairman." So it was a double sacking that day.
There was a great rumour going around at the time about the Shipmans and how they'd milked the club. I don't know whether it was true or not. I was too young to take much interest in it, but it was certainly makes you wonder where all the money went. Was there any money in those days? We weren't getting massive crowds, were we?
These days was but I mean, the crowds in a lot of ways were bigger because it was standing, so you get more in, but. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but there was somebody that wanted to put money into the club, and I think it was the Shipmans at the time. Like you say, big family, didn't want him to, wouldn't take his money, and he went off and put the money into Newcastle, but. These things happen, and who knows? But I don't know. I mean, I don't remember ever being bad times. They were just very stagnated times, weren't they?
Yeah, we were stuck in the second division, and we were never going anywhere.
No.
And I think the players, footballers are not that bright, are they? To be fair, so if you start coming out with all this technical stuff and all that, this is why I don't get the flip charts anymore. When they come on a sub, they don't really understand what the hell they're on about. They just go out and play. That's why I have to take little notes around with them. Yeah. So imagine Pleat coming up with all this technical stuff and trying to get that going. No, it just wouldn't work.
I mean, he came from. It was originally his first serious managerial job was Luton Town.
Did really well. Yeah.
400 odd games there. He only actually managed 71 games at Tottenham.
Okay.
But they were fighting before he left them. They were fighting on all three fronts, and he was doing well. But apparently, he'd been cautioned 3 times by the police, so that was why.
That's probably why he left Nuneaton then, because there's nobody there to approach like that.
Tell you what you're saying is it's a bit like Leatherhead. You've only got one prostitute, and
Indeed,
that's why it's called a one-whore town. Thank you. All week. Come on.
And
wow.
Good night. Let's get rid of put pleat in room 101.
Oh, we should do that. We should do that.
Yeah, indeed.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at my own jokes. I know, but it had to be David Pleat. If he did nothing else for this show, it was the fact that I could use my one whore joke.
And also, nobody else laughed, Chris. So you might as well laugh at your own, mate.
Exactly. Oh, inside everybody, inside you're laughing. I know you really are, and this is why my viewers have just gone down. But that was David Pleat. I think again, his ideas for a first. What was then, let's say a top tier team were good, but a team that is fighting relegation, it's and this is why if we get whoever let's say Rodgers goes, whoever replaces him has got to be a manager that's used to fighting at the bottom end of the table.
Yeah.
And he was the wrong manager, I think.
I'm just looking at those dates. I can't believe Pleat was there that long. That's staggering, really, isn't it?
Well, as he only did 71 games at Tottenham,
Yeah,
but
staggering.
Who is up next, do we think? Who could it be? I bet it's not who you think it is.
Oh,
Gary Megson.
For the month.
Manager
of the month.
Yeah. Now, this was a guy, again, another one of, Mandrich's. He seemed to have a revolving door for managers, didn't he? But he did at Portsmouth as well, in fairness. But like I say, we've still got to thank him for, saving us. But for me, Megson he did well because, again, he came in, he had 9 games in charge. He won 3. Drew 4, only lost 2. But the problem was that he hadn't signed him to the contract. How do you employ somebody and don't sign them to a contract?
It was unbelievable, wasn't it? Again, It was a false dawn, which we've had at Leicester many times. We all thought it was going to start going well. Is that the same scarf Mandrich used? Because it probably wouldn't have been that old, would it?
I think it is the same scarf in those 3 pictures, yes.
And we all thought it was going to happen. This is great. We're doing all right. He started well, and then suddenly he's gone. It's bloody Bolton, for Christ's sake, wasn't it?
Well, Bolton it was. Bolton were in the Premier League. And I think what annoyed everybody, I mean, even let's be honest with you, even if he signed his contract and Bolton had come in, he'd have probably still gone. But Bolton saw the opportunity that he wasn't signed. At least we didn't have to pay him off because he wasn't on a contract. But I think what peed everybody off was before he joined Leicester City, he'd obviously been at Forest and West Brom, Stoke before that. So he'd been round the Midlands. But I don't think he was working when we took him on. Not Forest had sacked him. And he wasn't working. And we'd taken him on and given him his chance to get back. And then he treated us like that. And that's why I've put him in. But he actually turned us round defensively because we were awful defensively before he came in for conceding goals. And if we have a look sort of either side of him, I mean, he took over from, of course, Martin Allen. Who went before him. And of course, let's not forget, I mean, this is quite interesting. Before Gary Megson, there was Martin Allen. Before Martin Allen, there was Nigel Worthington.
Yeah, I thought maybe at the time he should have been offered the job.
Yes, he kept us up again, but
Yeah,
he wasn't offered the job. Before that, it was Rob Kelly, and before that, it was Craig Levein, Dave Bassett. Or we can just go back. Who took
Bassett
over?
had a couple, didn't he? Bassett had a couple of goes at it.
He did. Who took over when we lost Martin Allen for a few games? Sorry, Gary Megson. Who took over between Megson and Holloway as caretaker manager?
Well, caretaker.
Yes.
Was that the Walsh era? Walsh?
No.
No,
Yeah, I can see where you're going. You're not a million miles away.
Yeah. It wasn't Taggart, was it?
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Jerry Taggart, yeah.
So he was in charge when we played Chelsea in the League Cup at Stamford
We got
Bridge.
stuffed, I think, didn't we?
Well, I went to that. We played well.
Not
that was where that. No, that's where that poor lad got injured, and did his cruise ship, never played again.
Is that where it was a dodgy decision? Oh, well, some things don't change, do they?
Yeah, we were doing all right, but I went with a load of mates from football who were obviously Chelsea fans, and then Andy Sutton, who lived in Worthing, she came up, and we went to Chelsea, and I'm sure that was when Taggart was involved. We lost in the cup, and we did well because obviously we were in the second division or whatever it was called at the time. And Chelsea were high flying, but I can't remember his name now. A young black lad, was a brilliant player, and he got injured. He just did his knee or his leg, and he never played again, I don't think. Horrendous injury, absolutely horrendous injury.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, when Megson took over, we actually won our first game of the season on the 6th of October. We beat Sheffield Wednesday. Bolton, in fairness, did go about it the right way, because they did actually approach us and say, take care, Mike. Mike's got to go. Thanks for popping in, mate. They approached us to sign him, but Mandrich rejected their approach. He liked Megson because he said he had the experience. Megson was their first choice to become Bolton's new manager, and they made a second approach for him. The club said they were also willing to compensate Leicester should Megson move to leave the Walker Stadium. The second approach was also rejected, but Megson was eventually given permission to speak to Bolton, and he left Leicester on the 24th of October 2007, 41 days and 9 ELP Championship games into his appointment. Up there with Theresa May again. It was a shame. I think he could have, like you say, a bit of a false dawn maybe, but yeah, I think it was disappointing that he didn't last longer. And he didn't last longer Bolton, in fairness.
No, he didn't, because he was rubbish. When you look back, we've not kept managers that long, have we? Apart from the odd one or two.
No.
We seem to have a pretty poor selection on managers. You look at Holloway, 6 months, was it? Megson 1 month, Allen 3 months. For one reason or another, they wouldn't have left if they think they could get on and enjoy it at Leicester. But they did.
No. Okay, here's a question for you then, young man.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go a look here. Matt Gillis managed the club twice.
Did he?
Yes, I believe he did.
I didn't know that.
He came back. It was 500 games from 58 to 68, 10 years. Good God.
Yeah.
I'm sure he came back.
Not after that, he didn't.
Did he do it before that then?
Yeah, before he might have done, but certainly not after.
Oh, no, sorry, not Matt Gillis. Peter Hodge. Sorry.
Right.
Peter Hodge, 1919. You remember that?
Yeah.
1926. And then 1932 to 1934, he was manager.
And am I right?
Has managed us twice.
Peter Hodge.
No, what other manager apart from Peter Hodge?
Oh, Bassett.
Yeah. And
who else?
Bassett was either side of Mickey Adams, because Bassett brought Mickey Adams to the club.
Yeah. Well, technically, no. Gordon Milne, because he was manager and then he was joint manager, wasn't he?
No, he
Would
never left the
does that
club.
not count? Okay.
No.
Who else would it? No, Nigel Pearson, of course. Nigel
Sorry?
Pearson, of course.
Yes,
Yeah,
Nigel Pearson.
How could I forget? How could I forget that?
How could you forget that? But that was Gary Megson. Coming up is Mark McGee. Now I absolutely hate this guy, and I'm going to be honest with you. That I gotta sound like Anthony now, don't I? To be honest with you, he was a good manager.
Yeah.
And this is one of these systems, one of these times where, when we moan about clubs coming in for our managers, it's funny, but we never complain and say, oh, we shouldn't be going in for other people's managers. We poached Mark McGee from Reading.
We did.
And he was doing a very, very good job at Reading. I think we're already down because we were in the Premier League. We were struggling. Brian Little had moved over. He'd left to go to Villa, which I understand because that was his childhood club. He could have handled it better, but it's on the show as well. One of the Brian Little one, but. Obviously went to Wolves. It wasn't the fact that he went to Wolves, but it's the way when he left, he turned around and said, well, I'm going because they're a bigger club.
That pissed everybody off, that did.
Yes.
Absolutely. And also, he reckons he took advice from Alex Ferguson, who told him Wolves were a bigger club. But you're right. I mean, the football was brilliant.
Yeah.
For that short period of time, I mean, the football was incredible. We played some great stuff. He brought some good players in, and the players we'd already got, he turned them into better players.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised his record's not better than that. What's that say? 31.37. I thought it might have been a bit better than that.
Well, I think the problem was that he joined us in December 94, so it was halfway through a Premier League season. That we weren't playing well, we got relegated. So I think that's why, his record was bad, if you like.
Right. So Brian Little left us before we got relegated that year?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
He took us up, and then Villa came in for him,
we'd have gone down anyway.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Indeed. Yes.
I got invited to Chelsea in early season when we got promoted by a mate of mine down there, and he took me into the players' lounge and bar and everything. And I saw them coming out for the second half, and we were like 2-3 down at the time. And I looked at Brian Little, and I went, "Hey, let's go." And he just shook his head. Yes. I thought, shit, we're going to get relegated this year. This is only about the fourth game in, I think.
Well, we had
lost 4-0.
Up until McGee leaving, we played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 21 games up until in that first division. The second season he was with us. We played 21 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 games we lost out of those 21 under him. So, but then they say it's a funny thing, the way things are happening, the way things are meant to be. Of course, we all know who he was replaced by, don't we?
We do, eventually.
Yes. The gentleman that is Sir Martin. Yeah.
Should have sacked him after was it the Ipswich or Norwich game? Or something.
Sheffield United, do you think?
Sheffield United, that's the one. Yeah. Could I forget? Yeah.
He still remembers that. Bless him. He still remembers that. But yeah, Mark McGee, good manager, but as a person, as Brad said there, scumbag.
Scottish, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so that's Mark McGee.
You know what, Chris? While you're doing that, just think about all these managers we're talking about. It does make you wonder what you wish for, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. I think these days you've got to look at managers and go, yes, brilliant, like Ranieri, did us great, but they've all got sell-by dates.
Yeah.
And as I said on my piece, if you haven't checked it yet already, BBC website, go to the Leicester City page. And as I say, every manager has a sell-by date. And unfortunately, some of them, and I include Rodgers in this, he's gone mouldy. He's gone that far past his sell-by date. But you know what?
He's probably still in the top 3 managers, record-wise, that we've ever had. Well, in the last 60 years, probably.
Well, he's on 46%.
How's that rate? That's pretty high, isn't it?
Well, if we're talking permanent managers, Shakespeare had 42, Ranieri had 44,
blimey.
Pearson 45 at the second attempt, Sven was 43, Pearson at his first one was 51, which I think is about the best, apart from managers that are there for one game and got 100%.
Yeah, that's probably the best.
Gentleman that wasn't quite as good as that, Paulo Sousa.
Yeah, this was a strange one. I must have been absent in some of these times because he came from Swansea. Is that right?
No, he came. Is
it Swansea now?
Where? It's a very good question. Yes, he did. It was Swansea. I can't remember if it was Swansea or Cardiff. It was Swansea.
Yeah. And he was playing some good football there, apparently.
Yeah.
And
he was there. He started out as Portugal under-16 manager, went to QPR, and then went to Swansea and was doing really, really well at Swansea.
So he had 3 months with us and 12 games. That was bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember much about it, Chris, to be honest. But it just seemed bizarre that he got sacked after that time.
Well, he joined Swansea after Roberto Martinez moved to Wigan Athletic. Whatever happened to him? And he was signed on a 3-year deal. During the league campaign, Sousa led Swansea to its highest league finish for 27 years, which was 7th, just outside the playoffs. On the 4th of July, departed by mutual consent to take up the post of Leicester City. So again, we approached and we took him. He became the new manager of Leicester City on the 7th of July. Owner Milan Mandaric stated that he was delighted to acquire a manager of such great calibre, adding he was the right man to take our club forward. And I'm going to be honest with you, I thought he was.
Yeah.
I thought he was.
Did he have a bad run at the end? So it lost,
No, that was the problem. No, he wasn't. On the 1st of October, after less than 3 months in charge, Sousa was fired after a poor start to the season, with the team having won only once in his first 9 league games.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And he went on to a Hungarian side, Videoton. But again, it's another one of, looking good and false dawns and thinking, you could argue, was he given enough time? I mean, he only had 12 games. So I don't, I'm not sure whether he was or not.
No, we were a sacking club then, weren't we?
Well, we did go through it. The thing was, we'd got Nigel Pearson in. And I think that was around the time when, Asian development investments, or whatever they were called at the time, aka King Power, were coming in. And Pearson walked out because he wasn't told about the takeover, allegedly. I believe this was, I say all allegedly, but he felt out of the loop. So he
wasn't there something about Sousa being approached before Pearson had left, and that's why Pearson left, because a new manager was being touted, when Pearson was still in charge. There's something like that, wasn't there?
It could well have been. Brad says here, fans hated him. His last game was the most exciting 4-3 defeat to Norwich. Fryatt scored a hat-trick off the bench, got sent off. Quite possibly. I know there was something going on in the background. Brad might know, because obviously he was at the club. He might well know. I know I say there was something that he wasn't happy with. And let's be honest with you, if you're right, I don't blame the fact that he left. But Sousa went. Chris Powell and Mike Stowell, Chris Powell, bloody hell, came in for one game, 1-1. 100% record. Well done, guys. Let's get them back.
Actually, Mike Stow must have been caretaker a few times.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. And do you remember who took over then?
Oh Christ! After him,
yeah, after Sousa.
Wasn't Pearson again, was it? No,
he was the one after the one that replaced him.
Oh, not Taylor, was it?
No,
of course it was. He took over after O'Neill. I don't know.
It was Sven Goran.
Sven, was it?
Yes. Yeah. Brad's got it there. He's just said Sven. Brad, do you remember why allegedly Pearson walked out on Leicester the first time? Let me know if you do know. But yeah, he came in, and I remember looking at it and thinking, like, this could be a good signing because he had done so well at Swansea. You know what I mean? Just outside the playoffs, and yeah, his career's gone kind of sideways a hell of a lot since then. You know where this is going now. One more to look at. Who have I not mentioned? No? Has Dave froze? I think Dave has frozen. Am I still coming over loud and clear? Dave is either playing a really, really, really good game of statues or he has frozen. But this is our 10th out of 10th choices. Yes, Tater Peeler. Dave, I think you certainly have frozen. Yes, he's gone. He has frozen. And look, I had to put that picture up. Probably one of the worst signings we ever made as a club. And that was Dennis Wise. What can I say about Peter Taylor that won't get me put sued for libel? I mean, he took... this is why I do compare him so much with Frank McClintock, because again he took over a side. Martin O'Neill had pulled together a brilliant side. Okay, I mean, Martin O'Neill could have gone. Leeds were after him, Everton were after him, and I understand Celtic going for him, and I understand him going to Celtic because that was his boyhood club again. And like with Brian Little, I'd get that. I get that when it comes up, but this guy came in and he had been England under 21 manager. Here we go. Yes, a meeting bust up between Nigel and the hierarchy. Apparently, he saw a list of managers' names and accused them of planning his replacement. Not surprised he buggered off then. Really not. Dave, you win. You've won the battle of the statues. I will get you back on musical chairs, though. Don't you worry.
Unbelievable. I wondered why my laptop wasn't charging. I suddenly realised that the plug had fell out.
Oh, that happens to me all the time. Peter Taylor came to the club. He was England under 20-something manager. I presume it's England under 21. And went to Gillingham. But as England under 21 manager, he had a very good record.
He did. And he became England manager for a couple of games.
He did.
Gave
for one
Beckham
game.
his captaincy, unless you've mentioned this before. But I know.
I didn't really mention much. But yeah, Glenn Hoddle invited him to join his England setup. And he, like you say, made Beckham captain, didn't he?
Yeah. Destroyed the club.
He did. Not unlike McClintock.
Well, McClintock didn't. Yes, not unlike that. But Martin O'Neill had won trophies with us, and we had a side there that could have moved on. But if you remember, Neil Lennon left. Was it halfway through the season? Went and joined O'Neill at Celtic. He bought some terrible players. Peter Taylor. We were top in October.
Yeah.
Got beat by Man United reserves at place 3-0.
For 2 weeks because there was an international game.
Yeah, but at the Man United game, we were looked amateurs against them, and they had half their team on the bench. It was embarrassing, it really was. And then it went downhill from there. But I think we finished, 10th, 11th that season? I don't know. But only based on, some of the players that were still hanging around.
Yeah. I mean, just going back as when he was at England, England finished 9th in the 1998 European Championship. These were England under 21s and qualified for the 2000 finals comfortably, winning every match without conceding a goal. But with 3 matches to play, Taylor was replaced in controversial manager by Howard Wilkinson, who won the next 2 matches. And then we got a defeat. So then I don't know why, it doesn't say why he was replaced. Went to Gillingham.
Did all right there, I think, didn't he?
Let's have a look. At the end of he guided them to victory over Wigan Athletic in the Division 2 playoff final, which marked the cancelled promotion of the upper half of the English tier for the first time in their history. He also guided the Gills to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup after beating Premiership Bradford City and Sheffield Wednesday before they lost 5-0 to Chelsea. He then left to join Leicester City. He had an excellent start at the East Midlands club, and they went to the top of the league on the 1st of October. They stayed at the top of the league for 2 weeks. He was voted Premier League Manager of the Month for September and were in contention for the UEFA Cup place for well over half a season. But 9 defeats from their final 10 games took them down to 13th place, following, and I always remember this, the defeat by Wycombe Wanderers. Taylor was sacked on the 30th of September the following season. While managing Leicester, he was appointed caretaker manager for 1 game when they lost 1-0 to Italy. Do you remember me saying earlier? That I'd put that? Who did I put into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, room 101.
Yeah. Who was it I put in?
You put in one of the players, and I can't remember.
I can't remember who it was now. No. Well, that gentleman there is a contender for it, but
bloody right.
He gets beaten by Junior Lewis.
Oh my life! Was he a footballer?
Well, I don't know. He put on a kit and some boots, but whether he was a footballer or not, what we think he was allegedly Peter Taylor's illegitimate son.
He got a load of games, didn't he? He got loads of games. I couldn't believe it. There's somebody else actually that played for England, and everyone was saying, if this guy can play for England, why can't I? And he was a similar player to Junior Lewis. Carlton Palmer, you got it. Yeah. I mean, goodness me. John Stevens. Yeah.
Sorry,
Trevor Benjamin. Bloody hell, yeah.
He was actually, I think it was at Cambridge.
He was.
And another striker, and the other striker was good, and we bought him. He was the lesser of the two, if you like, Brad says here, apparently Tony Cottee and a few others wanted to take over. If only O'Neill had handpicked them to replace him instead, we got this. Again, Tony Cottee is in the conversation bracket on the channel as well. If you've missed the 1-to-1 with him, I mean, he just destroyed that club. And I think if you look at his career after he left Leicester, and I'm trying to find it now and I can't. Again, he's another golfer. He managed Leicester. He then went on to manage Brighton, Hull, England 21, under 21 he went back to, Palace, Stevenage Buller, Wycombe Wanderers, Bradford City, Bahrain, England under 20, Gillingham, Kerala Blasters, assistant manager at New Zealand, caretaker back at Gillingham, Dagenham and Redbridge, Welling United, and he is still managing, and it's at Malden and Tiptree.
Good side. Yeah, good side there.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we were top, we played nobody, if I remember rightly. I mean, we'd won 4 and drawn 4. So we hadn't actually set the league alight. And I think teams like Bradford were in the division then. We beat them. We beat Ipswich, and I don't know. I think perhaps Chelsea. That was the only I got a feeling we beat Chelsea. I don't know why. It just sticks in my mind that we did, and I think that probably is the only team that might have been half good that we beat. But we were humiliated against Man United. Neil Lennon cleared off. Did he buy Frank Sinclair or had somebody else bought him? He had about 3 own goals in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
This twat here that you got a picture
Who would have
of.
thought we ever bought another defender that would score own goals, eh?
Oh, who'd have thought?
Yeah,
Stan Collymore, he fucked Stan Collymore off, didn't he?
Collymore.
Stan Collymore left.
Stan Collymore, yeah.
Did he buy Akinboy? He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
9 goals, I think Akinboy scored.
5 million, the most expensive player in our history at the time.
Yeah. Actually, you should ask Matt Piper this, because I think he made his debut that year, didn't he?
I don't know. Matt Piper doesn't really speak to me, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
Not that he doesn't speak to me, but he just doesn't reply to my tweets. So
okay,
he's comfortable at working for Leicester.
But we didn't have the Walkers, did we?
We didn't have the what? Sorry,
the Walkers Stadium.
No, not at that point. No, we eventually moved in, but you've got to remember. Apparently O'Neill signed Frank Sinclair.
Did he? Bloody hell.
According to Brad. Wycombe Wanderers, yeah. I mean,
no, that's not.
That was where it all went wrong. And they do say, our managers got to sort of, and again, the situation we're in at the moment where a manager can't motivate a team. I think after that defeat was where it all started to go wrong because we couldn't win a game. I think it was 1 in 9, they said, or something after that.
I think he'd gone wrong all season, mate, and the last part of the last season. Yeah. It was going wrong from halfway, from when he started.
Had we not had that start, we would have gone down that season.
Yes, we would. Yeah.
You know, but I think I can remember, this is another be careful what you wish for moment, because I can remember seeing the draw for the FA Cup and thinking, oh, Wycombe is still in it. And they were thinking like a 4th tier side at the time. Ex-Wimbledon guy was managing them, and he got sent off, funnily enough. Yeah. And this was Wycombe, a side that hadn't got a fit striker, and advertised, now he's taking you back, on teletext for a striker, and they got him in. And I remember thinking, like, oh, God, the best draw we could have would be a home draw against Wycombe Wanderers. And we got a home draw against Wycombe Wanderers. And they dumped us out. We would have lost to Liverpool in the next round anyway, but that's... Yeah, we got beaten by teletext advertising. That is so true, Brad.
Was it SC Ascendant or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
His name.
Ascendendo, yeah. I don't know how you pronounce it, but yeah, I agree. And I can understand a lot of the youngsters going, or the younger generation compared to us, saying, Peter Taylor is the worst. But I've got to say, I've still got to stick with Fran McClintock, but it is a very, very tight decision between...
No, it's not tight at all. McClintock is the worst.
Well,
Taylor's second worst, but McClintock is the worst. In fact, actually, I think I had Holloway as the second worst, which I know wouldn't be bless you. Which I know, bless you again. Which I know is not your idea, but I think in my top 3 I had McClintock, Holloway, and Taylor.
No, we had in fairness, we weren't going to do that at the start, weren't we? Put them into order, but I mean, to me, there's a lot of them there that weren't particularly bad. Like I say, McGee, certainly more for the way he left us. Martin Allen as well. He was, I think, possibly one that got away, but I understand, you can't have your job undermined. Holloway, I can't include him in my top 3 because I think that club was down, whoever had taken over at that point. Yes, at that time he was putting round pegs in square holes. But he took Blackpool. He went to Blackpool after us and took them up. So the guy had something about him. Puel, again, for me, boring, but we weren't fighting relegation under him. I've got to say, Peter Taylor and Frank McClintock are definitely number one equal for me. Like I said, I literally just can't split them. I'm struggling for my third one, to be honest with you, as to who to go for. I'd probably have to say, for me, third, I'll probably have to go Martin Allen, to be honest with you. I think,
Really?
Yeah, I think he had potential, but then when you look at the players, he was buying play. He was like a kid in a sweet shop.
He was when he signed about 14, 15 players or something like that.
He set the blueprint for Nottingham Forest at the start of the season and buying players. He was buying them all over, and like I said, he bought them all down sort of one side, whether it was left or right, I can't remember. But
yeah, I just remember that Watford game at home when we were superb, and I thought this is the start of it. We're going to go places now.
He wasn't given time. Well, for whatever reason, he wasn't given time to prove that. But I just, I mean, coming in and being one of his priorities, changing the flowers to make them blue and white.
I think also, and we had blue shorts as well, didn't we?
I'm not sure whether we did that season because I mean, the club colours were blue and white, certainly. But
we changed everything.
Here's a last question for you then, because we've gone on a little bit now.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you need. I need my beauty sleep. I don't know about you. It's been a great show. Do you prefer blue tops, white shorts, or all blue?
White shorts, blue top.
We differ on that again. You see, I prefer all blue.
Only because it's traditional.
Yes, although having said that, if it's traditional, we should be playing in black with a light blue stripe going across it.
Not that traditional.
Well, you can't see the front of it, but that shirt there with I was going to say with 9 on. They've both got 9 on. The one that's got my name on. I love that shirt, and obviously then the away one was the white version of it. But look, I have really enjoyed this, Dave. Thank you so much.
Just shows be careful what you wish for, eh? Maybe we should change our view on the boss.
Well, let us see. Let us see. We might be getting somebody in, and that we will wait to see. Will it make any difference? My worry is that if we do bring somebody in, that give him a month or so under Rodgers, and he'll be demotivated, injured, on a sick bed somewhere. But hey, we will see. But no, thank you so much. We'll do another one of these in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Let me know, because what I did, I picked the topic this week. Let me know what topic you want to do, and we will have a chat about it. Brad, thank you very much for your kind words.
We'll get Brad to keep us in check about the facts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he can come in. He can be the Simon Cowell in the wings. But no, thanks very much, mate. Really enjoyed this one, and I will see you on Friday.
Mate. Good to see you.
Take care, mate. All the best.
Bye, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thanks to Dave there. I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. I feel about 90. I'm not going to lie. He's made me feel very old. In fact, I've got to probably say that this actually is not far off what I feel like at the moment. You choose which one is which out the two of us. But no, thanks to Dave. Really enjoyed that. We'll be doing this, like I say, every fortnight, taking a trip down memory lane and seeing who we can pick up. Probably David Pleat, if truth be known. Hey, what's coming up next, I hear you ask? What's coming up next, Chris? I thought I heard you asking.
Coming up next on Leicester Till I Die TV.
Two shows tomorrow. The stats show at 7 and the match preview against home to Brighton with a Brighton fan tomorrow at 9 o'clock, sorry. So 7 and 9 o'clock, 2 matches, and then a special mid-season review will be held on Wednesday. Brad, if you're still in, mate, can you give me a message and I want to have a chat with you about Friday's show. I will see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much for watching. If you've been listening on your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much for lending me your ears. You can have them back now. Take care, guys. I'm going to go down and have a quick rub down with the wet Daily Mail. Good night.
That's all, folks.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
Leicester Till I Die TV. They think it's all over. It is.